Hi, and welcome to Cooking Fast and Eating Light, where I am cooking with no fuss recipes with 5 ingredients or less, because I really want to break down the barrier to healthy eating. I want to make it taste good, but I also don't want it to take a lot of time. So let's get cooking. I'm Judy Matusky, and I am a registered dietitian, and I am a culinary nutritionist. So welcome to all of you joining live, and also to anybody who's going to be watching this in the recording. Well, today it is all about kale, and I have some absolutely beautiful kale in front of me. I've said this before, but I am so lucky. My husband loves to garden, and we have been getting such beautiful kale this year out of the garden. There is just nothing better than fresh picked kale from the garden. It's just not quite the same as the supermarket kale, which can be, I think, just a little bit too bitter sometimes. Still has a slight bitterness, don't get me wrong, but there's definitely more of a sweetness when you can get it fresh. So if you have the opportunity to get it at a local market, farmer's market, please do, because if you've tried kale and just aren't sure about it, it just might be that the kale you're buying is just a little bit too strong. So we're going to be making one main salad, but with some suggested alternatives. And then we're also going to make a really quick and easy vinaigrette. So if you're using bottled dressings, I'm kind of hoping to maybe get you away from that a little bit and to get you to cook some of these using fresher ingredients to make your salad dressings at home. All right, so a couple things about kale. I almost feel like it's been overdone. I mean, I think most of us are probably kaled out at this point, especially if you've been hearing a lot about it over the past couple years. But I don't want you to give up on it. It is such an incredible nutrient powerhouse. It's like a phytochemical bomb that you are sort of dropping onto your plate. It is just an incredible dark leafy green, because not only is it a dark leafy green, but it falls into that cruciferous family of vegetables, which is the family of vegetables that we should be eating absolutely every day. So let's talk about some really fun and easy ways to eat some kale, and just a little bit of ways to prep it if you're not used to using fresh kale, particularly if you're buying it already prepared. And I'm gonna suggest not doing that. If you're buying kale already in a bag, the one thing that they're not doing is what we're going to do right now, and it makes a huge difference. Okay, so let me just move some of this off to the side. So here's just the kale stem, and kale has a very, very sturdy and pretty tough stem to it, which really isn't edible. So you're going to want to take that off. When you're getting kale that's chopped and pre-bagged, the stem is usually left on, and it just makes it even more bitter and just a little bit tougher to chew. So if you can get it fresh, please get fresh kale. And what you're going to do is you're just stripping the leaves just off of the stem. So we're going to really get rid of the stem. We don't need the stem. So you're just taking your kale and you're just going to pull those leaves all the way down the spine of the leaf, and we're going to get rid of the stem. That's just something that's a little bit too hard and too bitter. All right, so now that we have a couple of leaves here, the other thing that's really important to do with kale, because it is, it's a tougher green, it's not as soft as a lot of the lettuce that we're used to, you really need to cut it very thin. And that is absolutely key. So if you're not doing that, again, maybe that's one thing that maybe sort of turned you off to kale, because it maybe was just a little bit too chewy. But if you get your kale, and the easiest thing to do is to take the pile of kale and just kind of bring it together and just sort of start rolling it a little bit together into a nice little tight ball. And then just with your knife, we're gonna just what's called like a chiffonade straight through the kale. So just watch your fingers and bring it down, and you're gonna bring it and you're cutting it into very nice sort of thinner strips. And that just makes it much more pleasant to eat. It's sort of breaking down the fibrous cells of kale, and it absolutely makes all the difference. So please do that with your kale. Chop it nice and fine, and then you have these nice little chiffonade strips of kale. And that's what I have in the salad right now. So let me just move this off to the side, and let me just show you the kale that I have already prepared. All right, so we have the kale that's in here. I just, spent a few minutes just before, going live, just chopping this up and bringing that into that chiffonade. Now, here's the great thing about this salad. It is so incredibly simple, but the flavors work really well together, because you've got kale, which has got a little bit of that bitterness to it, but we're mellowing it and we're balancing it with some fresh fruit. I'm using just some fresh strawberries, and these smell so good. They're just really nice and sweet. So I just, slice them, and so that they, sort of look a little bit like a heart. And so I'm just gonna put them in. And the ingredients here, I know I have the recipe and we'll put it up, and the amounts that I'm using of the different ingredients, we certainly have the recipe for that. But this is really one where you can just eyeball. This is probably at least 6 cups of kale in here, give or take. I like a lot of fruit in this salad, so I am probably using at least, maybe 2 cups of sliced strawberries. So we're gonna add those right to the top. Now here's the thing. I have strawberries in this, and I did a second bowl. Let me just move my knife over to the side. I did a second bowl because I also wanted to do a second little salad just to show the versatility with this, because you can really use a lot of different fruit. And I think the main thing is to try to just use it in season. So right now, berries are in, but slowly moving out, but we're really getting into nectarines and peaches and plums, all of which would be fantastic in this salad. So I have some really nice nectarines that I chopped up just before the class. So this one is gonna just be with nectarines. You can, again, there's just no end to this. Once you get into the fall, that would be a great time to maybe use, once you get into the fall, you could use apples, you can use pears, you could get into pomegranates when you get into the holiday season. So you really can change this around. So we're just gonna do peaches in one, and we have strawberries in the other. And then when it comes to this, you want sort of that crunchy factor, and that's really gonna either come through nuts and seeds. So I have, with my strawberry salad, I love to use pistachios. I just think that really works really well together. So we're gonna put some pistachios into this salad. Again, you can use other nuts. I just happen to really love this combination. So we've got some pistachios here, and maybe, I don't know, half a cup, maybe 1/3 of a cup. But really just it's really just your preference. And in the one with the chopped nectarines, I'm going to use some pecans in that. I did not chop these. You can leave them as whole. I'm just going to sprinkle a few right on top. Now with the nuts, one thing to keep in mind is that you are really going to want to use the nuts and add them a little bit later. If you're not going to serve the salad right away, I would hold off on adding the nuts until just before you're kind of ready to serve it, because the nuts are going to start to get soft from the fruit. So hold off on that. And if you want to make this sort of ahead of time, when you're sort of putting your kale and your fruit together, and then the cheese we'll talk about, you can do that ahead of time and then just finish with the nuts. But if you put them on, they sit a little too long, they do get a little bit soft. And you really do want that crunchy factor from the nuts. So we have the strawberries and the pistachios, we have the nectarines and the pecans. And now when it comes to cheese, let me just grab, I just have feta today. So I'm just gonna use that, but you could use like goat cheese if you'd want that instead. I just picked up feta, so that's really what I'm gonna use. And I'm gonna use the feta for both. But I think goat cheese would be really nice in the salad with the nectarines. So we're just going to sprinkle a few sprinkles of the feta on top. Now remember, you don't need to use a lot of feta for this. You just you want a little bit of saltiness from that feta, and it just adds just a nice balance of flavor with the crunchiness of the nuts and the sweetness of the fruit, and then the bitterness of the kale. It really does work well. So sprinkling that right on top. And then not only is this salad really delicious because of the blend and the complements of all the flavors, but it looks so pretty. And it looks, it's just very dinner party worthy if you're hosting anything coming up, but it's perfect for sort of an outside picnic as well. All right, so here we have it. We have just 2 versions of this kale salad. It's super simple. Now the dressing is really, obviously can be your favorite, is fine. My all-time go-to dressing, and I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. My all-time favorite dressing that I use almost all the time is a real quick balsamic vinaigrette, and I'm gonna just demonstrate that for you real quickly. So just any jar, I picked this up online. It's actually kind of cute. It's a little shaker where you can add your vinegar and your oil, and then you shake it up, and it's a great little way to store it because the little ball kind of helps to emulsify it. But I save a lot of old jars, just any jar is fine. All right, so we have the container, and I'm gonna use balsamic vinegar. This is from Trader Joe's. You can really get like just a nicer quality of balsamic is better. Some of the more inexpensive ones at the supermarket really aren't true balsamic vinegar. So try to find one that's, a little bit nicer quality. This is from Trader Joe's. I did pick up one just at Acme, which is another option. If you wanted to go even at higher end, some of the really more expensive, aged, balsamic vinegars really are very thick and they are very sweet. So it's a little bit too sweet for me. So what I'll often do is I'll use mostly balsamic, and then I might do a little splash of, if I have the aged balsamic vinegar, just to give it a little bit of sweetness, but not too much. And the traditional, I don't even know if it's even that traditional anymore, but it used to be like 3-to-1 when you're making a vinaigrette. So that meaning that there's 3 parts olive oil or oil to 1 part acid. And in this case, my acid is the vinegar, the balsamic vinegar. I really like a tangy dressing, so that's just a little bit too oily for me. I'm not quite 1-to-1 ratio, but I definitely go a little higher with the vinegar and a little less than with the olive oil, but it's really your preference. That's what's great when you're making it yourself. It's really how you want this to come out. So I just put a little bit of the balsamic vinegar here. Now, when I'm adding the balsamic, I'm going to, and I'm not sure because if you can actually see this, I'll try to take this a little bit closer. I'm going to add it and I'm eyeballing it. I'm hoping you can see. Yeah, I think you can. So I'm looking at this. I'm going to take it so it's almost half and half vinegar to half olive oil. And then I'm just going to go a little bit more with the olive oil because if not, it might get a little bit too, it's just a little too tart, but you can just taste it and alter and add more oil if you need to. I usually air a little less oil first, and then if I need to add more, I will. And the only other ingredient that you really need to add to this, you don't even have to. I mean, honestly, if you just wanted to do this and shake it up, you've got a great dressing. A little salt and pepper, we're gonna add some of that. But if you wanted to emulsify and stay together a little bit better, what I really like to do is that I'll add some Dijon mustard. So in this amount, I'm probably going to put in here maybe a teaspoon, maybe a little bit less, probably a teaspoon. So that goes in, and now I'm going to do just a real quick grind of some fresh black pepper, and I'm going to add a little pinch of salt, maybe a teaspoon of salt. I feel like the lighting in here is a little bit off, so I'm sorry. Sometimes I feel like I'm in full bright light. But okay, so a little pinch of salt, and then just putting the lid back on top of this. To be careful because this thing has fallen out of my hands too many times, and I've actually had salad dressing all over my kitchen floor. So I'm gonna make sure that I have it on tight. All right, and then you're just gonna shake it up, and that's it. So it does emulsify. The Dijon mustard really helps to bring the oil and the vinegar together, and that's kind of nice if you really don't want things, you want it to separate. But that is one of the simplest, easiest dressings, and what I love about it is that it doesn't need to be refrigerated. So none of these things, none of the ingredients do. So I just keep it on my counter, and that's our go-to salad all week, salad dressing all week. I use it for almost every salad that I make. You can add more to this. You could add some fresh herbs or dried herbs or chopped shallots, or you can. And the only problem with that is when you start using fresh ingredients added to it, like herbs, fresh herbs or onions, then it really limits the length of time you're going to be able to have the salad dressing to use. So I usually leave those out. And if I'm going to add herbs, I'll add herbs right into my salad as opposed to into my salad dressing. Then the salad dressing just lasts a lot longer. All right, and it's great. And the one thing about this is that you really can control the sodium. What I don't love about bottled dressings, not only a lot of them have so many ingredients that are unnecessary, and I feel like the flavor is always just a little off to me. They're so high in salt and sodium, which is unnecessary. You need some sodium and salt in a salad dressing just to help certainly with flavor, but the amount you'll add is going to be way less than what's going to be added to those bottle dressings. All right, so this, we'll dress our salad. So this just kind of goes right on top, and then you can toss this around. I usually hold off on tossing the dressing into the salad until I'm sort of ready to serve it, because it just looks so pretty when these salads are really nice and layered. So you can kind of see that. This one has the nectarine and we have the strawberries. And then I'll toss it before I'm ready to serve it. The other thing that what's also really nice about kale is that it is a very hardy green. And so unlike most lettuce that, you buy it and it might end up going kind of bad in the refrigerator before you end up using it, kale lasts a long time in your refrigerator. I had a bag of kale that I had picked last week and it was still perfectly fine. So that's the nice thing, because you can always have it on hand and it lasts a lot longer in the refrigerator. All right, so here we have 2 incredibly delicious, fast, easy, 5 ingredient or less salads that you can pull together very quickly. And what is beautiful about it is the nutritional value here is incredibly high, because not only are we using kale, which is just really one of those top shelf vegetables that you should be eating in that cruciferous family, all of those vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, you want to be eating those every day. From a nutritional perspective, it's so important to get the types of nutrients that are in there, particularly some of the cancer-fighting benefits of cruciferous. So every day, if you are enjoying these recipes, please check out athensnutrition.com. We just put up a brand new download recipe bundle with some recipes with 5 ingredients or less. We have our top 10 foods to add to your plate as part of that bundle. And if you download it, then you also are going to get access to hundreds of recipes from our website, as well as the weekly recipes that we post, so that you're not going to miss out on recipes that are coming up. So please check it out. That's just athensnutrition.com. It's all free. It's there for you as a resource. So please, we want you cooking healthy. Please, and again, if you've given up on kale because you've been getting a little tired of it, bring it back, play with some salads for the summer, and just add it to your dinner menu, add it to a party menu, but try to get kale back into your diet. And also just enjoy cooking, getting back into the kitchen. It doesn't have to be difficult. Eating well can be very fast and easy. Believe me, that's how I love to cook. So join me again next week. We'll be doing another recipe. We'll be posting it, let you know ahead of time what that will be. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for joining me today. Take care. Bye-bye.